Welcome to Alliance Creative Network, where we educate our viewers on global issues such as security, health, and humanitarian challenges affecting the entire world. Together, we build a better life and peaceful environment for mankind. Join us each and every Thursday at 6 p.m. to discuss global issues.
Hello, viewers. You are welcome to Alliance Creative Network. This is where we educate you on global issues such as security, health, and humanitarian challenges affecting the entire world. Remember, together we build a better life and a peaceful environment for mankind. Our topic for discussion today is on youth entrepreneurship and job creation, which is currently affecting our world as we go through this pandemic. I am your host, John Nanaya Okyere. You can call me P. Okyere. And my guest here today is Dr. Gerald, a PhD, CEO, and co-founder of Planet Startup Educational, nonprofit in the United States. Welcome to tonight's show on global issues. Good evening, Dr. Gerald.
Good evening to you, President Okyere.
Doctor, can you tell us a bit about yourself for our viewers to understand who is on our show today?
Sure, I'll do that. First, I'd like to state that it's a great honor for me to be with you tonight, with your audience and everybody else. My background is kind of odd. It started out in physics, electrical engineering, information systems. And when you get into information systems, you get into a lot of things with company startups and things like that. So while I was teaching at the George Washington University, and also I've been a dean at other universities and up at Harvard as a visiting fellow for a while, what we did is we started an organization years ago, almost as a hobby, called Planet Startup. And the idea there was really interesting because this was before Shark Tank. But what we did is I invited a lot of my friends, and I was doing a lot of work with venture capital firms in the Washington, D.C. area, and asked them to come on in because we had this class where we're teaching people how to develop business plans, start up their own companies in the internet age, leverage the internet to make money. That was the whole idea. And then what I did, a while back, this became very successful. And on our website, you can see all of the press releases as to what happened. I got invited to go to Ghana to give a talk on entrepreneurship. And there was one woman in the back of the room. She raised her hand and said, "Do you think we can do something like that, like what you're doing in the US at Harvard in Ghana?" And I said yes, not realizing how hard it was. But what we did is we got Henry Bonzi from Ghana, and we set up classes. And we did it over Skype, and it worked very well. And what we've done is expanded. We're in the Congo now. We're in actually 21 countries, including China. We're in Brazil, pretty much all over the world. And the idea was we started training people, but we saw a problem. And the problem was essentially that we train people and then they don't have any financing in order to get going. And if you have a small company, you need some money to get started. So then through partnerships, we're now developing, which we call microfinance banks throughout the world through our number of partners. And that, I think, made all the difference in the world. We've got hundreds of graduates now in Ghana. And the next big thing is going to be in the Congo, the DRC, where we're working on training diabetics who need self-sustaining employment because of what's going on there, to buy their insulin, to get their medication, and to get food. And that's just starting out. So I'm very happy with what's happening. And my background and friends have been very helpful in making this happen.
Dr. Jerry, as we go through this pandemic, the situation at hand now, I believe the whole world is finding solution to so many problems. So therefore, the first question goes, what have you and your team at Planet Startup done? And what are you doing to help the world solve this situation?
Well, what we're doing is we're doing two things, really. We're a one-trick pony. It looks like we're doing a lot of different things, but essentially what we do is we create prosperity zones that can expand and create jobs. When we say we create jobs, not jobs that the government provides or jobs that large companies provide, we think that the answer is entrepreneurship in a free market. And that's this. If you take a look at the rural community, one of the rural communities in Ghana is Tamale, kind of the rural area to the north central. And there's not that much money circulating in the population, relatively speaking. So what we're doing is we're helping individuals set up their own companies. In some cases, it's a local company like a restaurant or raising fish, raising poultry, whatever. But really thinking about it in a business way. How do you do a business plan? How do you get people excited? How do you communicate to a bank in terms of what you're doing? But then at the same time, we have others who are selling their products in Europe, in the US, in South America, and in China to bring money into the area to circulate around. Now, of course, we can say there was a problem because of the pandemic. But we all know, and job creation, the way we're doing is fixing this because we're continuing our classes during the pandemic. In one cases, we're teaching people how to raise bees and then exporting the honey, shea nuts, making cosmetics and soap and things like that. And we make this happen. However, the real problem started before the pandemic. And that is, as we've talked, spoken in our conversations, it's robotics and a kind of automation. Because I'll sit down and I'll mention to somebody in Paris, it's not just Africa, the US, or South America, or China. It's everywhere.
Dr. Jerry?
Yeah.
If I'll come in to clarify things to our viewers,
yes.
I believe you made mention of robotics.
Correct.
Can you please specify what the robotic means?
Well, what robotics means is we're talking about self-driving cars. I was talking about this conversation in Paris. I mentioned to somebody what would happen in Paris if all the taxi drivers were, lost their jobs. Be a big problem because they're not all that people are not that retrainable. What would happen in Okyere? I was there in Okyere and I use the taxis a lot. There's a lot of taxi drivers and they're doing okay. If that went away, what about transportation, truck driving, things like that? What about agriculture and mining? All that's coming down the pike and nobody's talking about that. So the only way to fix that is have individuals doing their own thing, selling their own products. We're even setting up an art school for people to sell their own art online as well as physically. Just making that happen.
So I believe that United Nations Sustainable Development Goals has 8 decent work and economic growth. And number 1 is no poverty. Number 2 is zero hunger. So can you please tell us a little bit about the area of the entrepreneurship and then the job creation, Doctor?
Well, what we do as an example, and I'd like to use the example of what we're doing in northern Ghana with the beekeeping, cosmetic soap, and things like that. what we're doing, we had one individual in our first class, and he said, "Can a nonprofit be considered a business?" I said, "Yeah, take a look at National Geographic and places like that versus Rand McNally. They kind of do the same thing. National Geographic makes a lot of money." So what he did, he set up a nonprofit that essentially teaches people how to raise bees and make cosmetics. And then he's essentially employing them. And they're making money, and then they're teaching others. They become parts of this class. They're teaching others to do the same thing.
Good.
So what happens, we have this expanding prosperity zone of job creation. They're entrepreneurs, they're creating jobs, and this expands. That's our model. Call them barefoot entrepreneurs.
Can you please tell us about mental health and the challenges affecting this pandemic?
Well, what it is, mental health is so many manifestations. And one of the things that I talk to people about, anxiety, they don't know what to do. That's impacting families. That's impacting so many parts of our lives. But more importantly, not more importantly, but as importantly, it affects how people learn. That's a big problem. Some people get depressed. They're sitting at home. They're not doing anything. They're worrying about the future. That doesn't help anything. But even before the pandemic, one of the things that we found out and we're dealing with in the US and South America, in Africa, one of the big problems that a lot of people don't talk about are learning disabilities, but also things like autism, Asperger's, and things like that. People are just recently recognizing these. We recognize that very quickly when some of the people in our classes in Brazil and Africa, in the US, couldn't learn in the same way that other people learned. So we basically came up with different ways to teach that were pretty good, but we were not trained in this area. Well, one of our founders, and that's Alex Chuang, is now being certified in teaching in the areas of autism, diagnosing that, and Asperger's, and other kinds of learning disabilities. And he's been talking to some of our partners in Africa that this is something that is just becoming into people's consciousness. We have to do something about that. So based upon the data that we have that he's working on, he'll actually be certified. He should be finished his certification very shortly to work with the people in Africa, in Brazil, in the US on helping to solve that problem by coming up with different ways of teaching that are more amenable to different kinds of learning issues.
We take a commercial break and then we'll
Okay.
be right back.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you.
Welcome to Alliance Creative Network, where we educate our viewers on global issues such as security, health, and humanitarian challenges affecting the entire world. Together, we build a better life and peaceful environment for mankind. Join us each and every Thursday at 6 p.m. to discuss global issues.
Welcome back, viewers. Before we went on commercial break, we're talking about job creation and youth entrepreneurship with Dr. Jerry. Dr. Jerry?
Yes?
Yeah, the next question is financial stability. Can you please tell us a little bit about what you and your team doing to resolve such situations?
Well, one of the items about financial stability is having a reasonable income and having it be sustainable over time and that sort of thing. And what we're doing in terms of working with individuals, again, I think I mentioned earlier, we set up these micro loan banks.
Yes.
We've got one set up right now, and we're going to be opening up a few more shortly. And what that does is that provides the, seed capital to get into buy inventory, to buy things that people can use to sell their products and make money. Because without that, what we found out, it just doesn't work. Doesn't work. Now, the other thing with financial stability is you can't have, which we found, a lot of kindness and happiness without financial stability.
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're working with the communities in order to talk about those kinds of things. That what you need is not only do you need the financial component, but you need to be happy. There's ways to measure that, and we actually do that. And then kindness toward other people, and that works. Makes all the difference in the world.
The next question is loss of jobs in our society. Because of this pandemic, a lot of people are home. They don't even have jobs to do. Can you please tell us a little bit about that?
Well,
What
what
you and
we're
your team are doing to help that situation?
Well, what we're doing is we're doing the same thing, only we're doing it during the pandemic. One of the interesting things, we had more people trying to set up, they lose their job. They think about, well, not only did they lose their job, their company shut down and went out of business. So they want to set up their own company and kind of do their own thing. So we're helping them do that. So during the pandemic, things actually rose. Now, what happened again, jobs were being lost because before the pandemic, around the world, the US, South America, Europe, Africa, well qualified graduates couldn't find jobs because of what's going on in the world economies. And that makes a difference. And when I met with the president of the Central African Republic, President Tudera, and his ministers, we talked about those kinds of things. We talked about things like setting up uh, basically yogurt processing plant as well as cattle ranches in the area to kind of make a difference. We also talked to some of the ministers in Benin. And I met with one of the local kings because nothing really happens in a lot of those countries unless the king's on board. So I met with the king and his chiefs, and it was quite an experience. And we had some good talks on making things happen. And again, the same thing. If you look at the Central African Republic, they were just, the last I was there, we're finishing up a civil war. And the president is really into bringing the people together and making a difference. And by the way, he was an ex-math teacher, been a wonderful guy for the job. And I think we're going to be making significant inroads. The people in the DRC in the Congo are going to be helping out in the Central African Republic. So we're getting everybody to work together on these kinds of things. And again, remember, it's happiness and kindness makes a big difference. And we talk about that a lot.
Good. Thank you so much, Doctor. Doctor, you made mention of the president
Yes.
of the Central African Republic.
Well, I mentioned it. We had maybe a 2 hour meeting with him, and then all day, maybe 2 days with his different ministers as to what we could do to kind of help out. And that's when we got into the entrepreneurship program, how we're going to do these things and that sort of thing. There, I think the problem is with the pandemic, because this was kind of right before the pandemic, things kind of, people lost track for a lot of things. So this is something that we're reestablishing now. And plus, we have a good basis in the Congo, and they want to help out and partner with a lot of the things that are going on there. And that'll make a big difference.
Okay, good, Doctor. Doctor, is it only Africa that you're working at, or you're working at other places too?
No, we're working throughout the U.S. We're done some things in Australia. We're in Brazil and other areas in South America. We've got some people in China that are starting to ramp up. So we're pretty much all over.
Good.
It's wherever we can get people and a place to teach. We're working in churches, hotel rooms, people's homes, schools. wherever we can get space. In fact, in one country, the government gave our director there an old broken down building that the students fixed up. So that was their first project, I guess, in terms of getting something done.
Good,
It's a great feeling when you see that happen.
good, good. Viewers, thank you once again for watching Global Issues on Alliance Creative Network. This is where we educate you on security, health, and humanitarian challenges affecting the entire world. Doctor, if let's say if somebody's watching you from somewhere and they want to help, how would they be able to help you?
Well, what they can do is get on our website, planetstartup.org. Uh, our contact information is there. You can either donate, you can even donate cryptocurrency if you like, and join the adventure. If somebody wants to do something, they can do that under our umbrella. The big rule is that we have is unless it makes you happy, don't do it with us because I mean, nobody gets any money for what we do. We serve our community. All the money we get goes to the community, and we're happy doing it. And we want to attract others with the same mindset.
Well, yes, doctor, I agree with you. And we appreciate the good work you and your entire team are doing to help the world as we all face or we all go through this pandemic situation. Thank you very much, Dr. Fieson. Our guest is Dr. Gerald Fieson, PhD CEO, and co-founder of Planet Startup Educational Nonprofit Organization in the United States. Thank you once again, Dr. Gerald, for being on Alliance Creative Network. Viewers, you can also watch us on each and every Thursday as we discuss global issues.
Join us each and every Thursday at 6 p.m. to discuss global issues.